Eh.
Yes, just hello, good morning, everyone. Sunday morning stream. Hello, Joel. Hello, Jay. Welcome at my channel, and let's have a chat.
Gates versteht gesehen sie aus.
So, Jay, what's your case? So you are an atheist, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. How do you justify your worldview?
Well, it's not a worldview.
Well,
It's justifying my position on why I believe gods do not exist. But it's not a worldview. It's part of my worldview, but that's not my worldview.
well, I would say this, Jay, that there are two basic worldviews. One is one where there is a God, and the second one where there is not a God. And of course, both have several implications which atheists are either aware of and recognize these implications, or they don't. So I don't know if you are aware of these implications, because we need an explanation of the physical universe, how it came to be, and that englobes, of course, the origin of life, the origin of the universe, the origin of biodiversity, all these kind of questions, the origin of morality, the origin of conscience, and all that sort of stuff. And of course, the moment that you deny that probably there is a God, you need to have a materialistic, naturalistic explanations of all these phenomena. And that, of course, there are many explanations out there. Now, there are, of course, also atheists which just claim, "Oh, I don't believe in God. There is no evidence," and they want just to stop there. So,
Yeah, I would have just even more simply asked, how do you not have a worldview?
Everybody has a worldview. Lots of things shape our worldview. Like we share different. We all share. We all believe TVs exist. We all believe whales should exist. All those kind of beliefs make up our worldview.
Yeah, but I don't think we want to talk about TVs or whales. We just want to talk about the evidence for God.
Yes, the worldview, which is basically
the evidence.
Either there is a God or there is no God. And if you say there is no God, if you want to be consistent, then you don't do what Joel just pointed out. You don't say, "Oh, I don't believe in the Bible, therefore there is no evidence for God's existence," and then you stop there. I've seen that many times. If you ask all those major atheist channels and the hosts why they are atheists, many will say that they have a Christian background, like Matt Dillahunty, and the other guy was a Mormon, and so forth. They all say, "Well, I was a believer, and in a process of deconversion, I became an atheist because there is not consistent evidence that the stories in the Bible are true." But when you go to ask, "Can you actually explain how we can exist without a creator?" then they will simply stop and answer. And I made that question when I called in at the line. I asked Sharon Q, and she went straight aggressive, picky on me, and started to ask, "How do you know that God exists?" So she tried to shift the burden of proof of me. But I said, if you believe there is no God, you need to be able to explain how we can exist without a creator. And that is a question which you see rarely atheists actually make. And actually, the most do not have good, solid explanations, because I think there actually aren't any. Of course, they try to sneak in abiogenesis, evolution, cosmic evolution, and so forth. But how are these explanations solid and sound and coherent? And I don't see that. But if you have such a case, Jay, hey, be my guest, bring it up.
I don't.
Yeah, that's precisely what I'm pointing out. Atheists generally don't have.
I mean, I don't have any problem accepting like the theory of evolution, our current scientific consensus on the Earth being round. I don't have. Those are things that I have no problem with accepting.
So
those exist. If we're looking for the answer to the origin of all things, that is something I don't think any scientist. That's a hard problem that science hasn't actually solved, is the origin of things.
So Jay, you just confessed you believe things based on blind faith.
No, I prefer to reserve my judgment based on what it is that I'm hearing. If I hear a claim about something, then I will suss it out.
So that's anecdotal. You base your blind faith religion on anecdotal references.
I still don't understand how my position is a religion.
Because all positions, either for or against God, is a religious position. You look
Yep.
at Webster's definition of atheism, for example,
Exactly.
in there.
Okay, so theism is a religious position as well.
Yes,
Yes.
theism is the positive religious position. That atheism is the negative religious position on the same exact proposition.
No,
Yep.
not necessarily,
It's
but
irrefutable.
it doesn't.
Basic
It doesn't.
English language. I'm sorry.
No,
that's
because
not
the
disputable.
definition. So theism makes the proposition that God to exist.
Yes,
Atheism
based on
makes,
scientific evidence, primarily off the Christian scientific method that Bacon started. Correct. And atheism is the opposite.
I would frame it that way, Jay. I would frame that materialism makes a positive claim that the material, physical, natural world
I'm not a materialist.
Okay, just what I'm explaining is that there are two worldviews, two frameworks to work upon. One is the proposition that the material, physical, natural world is all there is, and the theistic proposition and worldview is that God is at the bottom of all reality. These are the two options upon to work with. And
You almost quoted Heisenberg, by the way.
No, I don't. I don't agree with that dichotomy because we have to define what God is. I mean,
no,
what is?
well, okay,
what
God.
is a God?
I would define God at the beginning of an investigation of origins simply as an intelligent designer, as a conscient, willing mind. That's all. I would
like
not go
Einstein.
deeper. I would not go deeper into saying it is the Christian God or the Muslim God or the pantheon of Hindu gods or so. That would not be my starting point. I make a cumulative argument of God's existence where the first question to be illustrated or to be investigated has to be, is there a God? Probably, or is there more likely no God? That is the first question. Once that question has been elucidated and eventually the counterpart, the opponent, comes to the conclusion, oh, okay, upon the evidence provided, it makes more sense to believe that at the bottom of reality there is an intelligent creator, then we can move forward and actually ask, is there any kind of religion which points to that creator?
One thing I was going to simplify that by just presenting Einstein's claim for that God is the first cause.
Yes, of course. That is part of it. He is at the bottom of reality. He is the eternal I am, and of course God must be eternal because something cannot come from nothing. So something must have existed without beginning, without coming from nothing, and that something must be eternal. And we know that it is not the universe.
But that's fine.
Sorry, Jay.
It's a little presumptive because again, you're starting with the idea of the God. So this is a concept that's been
not necessarily, man,
over the years. Well, I mean, it's easy to take almost even a deist position where you're just basically saying, okay, it's necessarily the case that there's some kind of designer out there, but it may not necessarily be an intervening one. It may just simply have designed a system that's self-regulating. And
even that's a presumptuous claim, as you're claiming. To help maybe better kind of cut to the chase with what Antangeli was presenting that I think you might agree with is that there has to be an origination, as Antangeli was talking about. So the way I like to try to kind of summarize and keep it simple is that everybody either believes that they basically either worship the creator or the creation. Either God is the first cause that's eternal, or the creation itself is the first cause, which is the basic steady state universe theory. And so people will just worship the universe as being eternal.
I don't think worship is.
Well, you have basically two possibilities, Jay. Either the universe was self-caused, it came into being by nothing, or it is eternal. Would you agree on that?
No, I would say I can't. I would-
So, what other possibilities do you think are there?
I don't really challenge myself with that. I have, but I don't know if I can come to a deity, then it's possible that there's a deity, but that would just be based on the fact that I have been introduced to God concepts, to these concepts called gods. But if I
Yeah, but you don't
didn't
have
have
to,
any
though.
knowledge, if I didn't have any knowledge or have been aware of those concepts, I don't know what conclusions I would necessarily draw from the state of affairs.
Well, there
You
are
can.
basically three options. Either there is a creator, an intelligent being at the bottom, the first cause, as Joel said, at the bottom of reality. The second is that the universe is eternal. It had no beginning. It always was. And the third option is that the universe popped up out of absolutely nothing. These are the three options. Would you agree with that, Jay?
I'm not going to say I necessarily agree with either of them, with any of
So
them.
what would be the origin of your religious belief?
I don't know.
So you're just making blind faith statements.
No, I don't know. I don't know how things came into existence.
Well, so
Right. So
rational, just use reason, Jay. I pointed out three options, three possible options,
Yes,
and
but they
there aren't
presume-
any other.
But they presume a god in one of those. In those options, you're presuming a god.
No,
Well, it is a
not necessarily.
possibility.
Two of
It
those
is a-
options do not have a god.
Yeah, it is a we are just dealing about
Yes, but
possibilities.
they
here.
also presume certain things that we may not necessarily be correct about.
It
We
only
may not
presumes
know.
that
We
things
may not
exist.
know that the
It's all-
universe is
We
necessary.
are
No,
just
seriously,
we
dude,
are
all
just
that presumes is that things exist.
we are just talking about possibilities here, Jay. What are the ontological possibilities of existence, of the origin of existence? One is that there was a creator at the bottom, the first cause at the bottom of reality, a necessary being. The second is that the universe never started to be, it always was. And the third is that the physical universe started from absolutely nothing. There are no other logical possibilities here. That is the framework upon which to work.
But isn't God being the necessary thing to make all of this come into being?
That's the theist position, correct?
Have
Yeah.
to create all of that from nothing?
Yes.
Yes.
Do we have any demonstrations? Do we know of any creators that can design and create outside of space and time with nothing to use?
Yes, we see it evident now.
With what?
Everything, including the fact that you can talk to us about it.
That presumes that, okay, so that presumes the validity that there is a deity, there is a creator and a designer that can actually do this.
Yes, and I think that the fact, again, that we're talking about it is evidence of that.
Okay.
Much less the
That's
solar
it.
systems and the butterflies and everything else.
How did you get to a specific deity just based on the fact that all of this was created and designed by one? How did you rule out many?
We're changing subjects just to be clear, but
Yeah.
and I can't answer that. Do we want to shift that subject now in Tingalo or stick
No,
to
I would like to point out, I agree with you, Joel, but there is another line of reasoning, Jay, which is eliminative inductions. When you have three possibilities and two possibilities are not possible logically and rationally, then the third possibility must be true, even if we don't understand it fully.
That's Holmesian. That's a Holmesian thing.
That is what?
That's Holmesian.
What does that mean?
You know that. Let me look it up.
While you're doing that, Jay, I wanted to kind of caution you that if you are going to claim that you do not know of the causality of your religious beliefs, that is a confirmation that you are literally.
I still don't agree
basing
with you
things
on the
on a lack
religious.
of.
I don't agree with you, Joel.
It
on
doesn't
that.
matter. Yeah, I understand that atheists often need to do
And
that
if you
because
ask
they're
me, you're
hostile
just
towards
giving
religion. But epistemologically, all atheists have a religion. As a matter of fact, here in the United States, atheist church religions and church organizations and clergy, they're granted automatic religious tax exemptions due to the empirical fact that atheism is by definition and by evidence a world recognized organized religion. They have with doctrine, with sacraments,
Yeah.
with a
That
religious
is-
position.
That is true, Joel, but it is not something that all atheists confess or live.
Right, which is
Many,
irrelevant.
many are weak atheists. They simply say, "We don't believe in your assertions, and you have the burden of proof." That is the position of many of
And-
I would say the new atheists. 90% they have adopted that kind of position because they have in the year 2000 to until 2010 or so. They did hold the strong atheism position where they tried to actually defend the view that there is most probably no God. And since they knew that that was a road with no end, they were not going very far. They said, okay, so we simply eliminate the burden of proof, and now we just simply assert that theists do not have sufficient evidence that we can accept.
Right. But just to stick to the whole religious connotation as well. So for when atheists claim that their religion is not a religion, is exactly equivalent to Christians claiming that Christianity is not a religion. Just to help kind of put that to bed. There's plenty of Christians that do that. My brother used to have a license plate cover on the back of his car back in the 80s. It says, "I'm not religious, I just love the Lord." Which you can make all kinds of claims, but the fact is that atheism is the negative religious position that theism is in the positive. They're both religious positions. Whichever one you believe in.
What if I told you atheism is the positive position that God's to not exist?
That would be the same exact statement as saying that theism is the negative position that God does not exist.
Yes.
It's just a kind of dumb way of twisting the same
Well,
thing.
it works. Yeah, it works either way.
Well,
So
it's still making the same exact positions. You're just making double negatives.
Well, here's the thing. This is like what I was asking you, but I was asking you and you didn't answer. Do you believe that I have a 65-inch TV hanging in my living
So
room?
again, that's a straw man logical fallacy because we're not talking about TVs. We're talking about the belief in God.
Okay. And yes, and you admitted that somehow believing in God is somehow different than believing in any other claim.
Well, especially when trying to denote a person's religion. Unless you want to believe that TV can be your religion, which I guess people can do that.
So beliefs only apply to religion?
No, beliefs about God only apply to religion. That's why you're straw manning.
So beliefs don't apply to anything else but religion.
Religious beliefs only apply to religion about God. That's why you're straw manning to talk about things outside of God and religion.
So God is only confined. So beliefs in God are only confined to religion.
Well, religion is your belief in God, whether positive or negative.
No, that's my belief on a given proposition. A religion is something. How do you define what a religion is?
By what your religious position about God is.
So is any negative proposition? So is any negative position? Hold on. Can I finish saying something? Can I finish asking something?
Well, we're going in circles.
If any negative claim is made about something not existing, is that a belief? Is that a religious position?
No, because religious positions are only based on religious positions about God. So if you want to talk about something outside of God, that doesn't necessarily then is not a religious position. Again, unless you want to believe your TV can be your religion.
I don't.
But if you're going to make a claim, if you're going to make a claim about God, that is by definition a religious belief, since religion is anything to do with God.
Because theism is ultimately religion.
And as is atheism, excuse me, yes.
Okay.
Let me frame that in another way. The issues about ultimate reality, ontological existence beyond the universe, is something that we have no empirical access to. So whatever we rationalize in regards of that is a philosophical issue. There are no empirical proofs either way, neither in regards of the existence or non-existence of God. So what we have is tools of abductive reasoning and eliminative inductions. That is the epistemological framework upon which we do investigations. And we cannot come to an absolute truth by empirical tests in regards of these issues. So all we can do is look around us, check the evidence, and then based on that evidence, make inferences which either direct positively to most probably the existence of God being true, or the proposition that the material world is all there is to be true. But both instantiations are based on faith. They are not based on knowledge or on empirical proofs.
Well,
So-
I would actually argue, Antingelo, that theism belief can be positive evidence based. But I didn't mean to interrupt.
Well, of course, the evidence is the natural world. We have two lines of reasoning in order to infer God as most probable, which is direct revelation through a religion, an organized religion, religious book, or natural theology, which is the physical world. That are the hints that we have to give an interpretation either to one or the other side. But religion, in the literal sense, the meaning of religion is religare. That is from Latin, which means reconnect. And what does it mean in regards of God? It means that a religion is a tool to reconnect us to God. That is the literal sense of the word. Now, in regards of materialism, I would also say that it is a sense of a religion because it is made a claim which cannot be empirically proven, but must be held based on faith. Okay, so if that faith is rational or not, that depends on how much reason that you put into your worldview and framework that you investigate. Some are using just blind faith in materialism, and others try to rationalize it by seeking for evidence that leads to materialism as a better explanation of reality than theism.
Dingle, if I may, I wonder if we can hear more from Jay.
Go ahead, Jay.
I don't have anything. I really don't. I've never.
No.
To me, it doesn't make any sense how. If I make a belief, if somebody claims something in the state of affairs, somebody's saying, hey, in reality, there's this thing called God or gods. And the other person says they can have a psychological state that they take. They can either believe what that proposition is true, right? They can accept it. They can take it as truth apt, right? They may not necessarily know. They may think that there's good reasons to know, or they're just simply accepting it based on the validity, the trust that they have in the other person presenting them with this particular concept. Or they start asking them questions, and then they can have a psychological state where they simply don't know whether to believe it or not. Or they just say, no, I don't believe that. I believe that to not be the case. This works with pretty much anything that we're being presented as something in the reality that we exist in. So this idea that God only exists, we only reserve, when we're talking about God, we're talking about God in a religious sense, and believing in that proposition, the proposition of that particular being or beings existing, does not equate to any other thing being propositioned in the reality that we observe. That is bizarre to me.
I would base contention on your statement that that's first of all, that's a psychological state. I think that's an error. And then the simple fact that there are plenty of religions around the world, recognizable religions that do not require belief in God, negates everything you just said.
Okay. Does a person have to have an attitude towards something? So in philosophy,
no, we're not talking about attitudes. We're simply talking about a position on God.
Yes, a belief is the majority of in philosophy.
Don't appeal to a majority, please. That's another fallacy. Go ahead. I just wanted to warn you. Don't make
everybody believing in Christianity as being true. That's not a fallacy.
No, the appeal to popularity is a fallacy. You're talking about majorities, and that's never
the consensus. Yeah, the consensus amongst most philosophers,
which is irrelevant and fallacious.
In what sense? In what sense?
Again, it's called an appeal to popularity logical fallacy. The idea that a certain amount of people believe something
then I won't.
True
all right. Then I won't do that. So, what do you think a belief is? What is a belief to you?
A statement.
And that would be a proposition. What's a belief?
Sure. Well, the same thing. Statements and propositions are the same thing to me.
Okay. I'm just going to go ahead and call it quits because that's not what a belief is. Belief is an acceptance of something. not
Not
a
necessarily.
proposition.
Most see, I guess that's part of the problem, I suppose, is that what you just claimed is that you will make statements on things that you don't believe, and so I try to tend to
No, that's not what
want
I
to
said.
assume that people
Joel,
will only
that
state
is
things
not,
that they have a
Joel,
belief in.
no, that is not what I said. That is
It
not
is.
what I said. No, it is not.
I can't.
Where
Well,
I-
explain how I was otherwise, because that's the only thing that made sense to me.
no, that is no. What doesn't make sense to me is how you're separating X from another X
We're not
logically.
talking about X's. We're talking about belief versus statements.
Okay.
What
Yes,
I
and
just heard you
belief
say
is
was,
yes,
and I
and
would love
belief
the correction, is
belief
that
is
you
normally
believe things that you can state things that you don't believe, which I guess is
if I
possible.
accept something, if I accept something to be true or false, what do we normally call that?
A logical position argument.
That's not a belief.
It can be, yes.
Okay, so a belief is either the acceptance of something being the case or the acceptance of something to not be the case.
Which
Could
is
that be a belief?
exactly what the religious position of atheism versus theism is. That those are both religious beliefs, whether accepting or not accepting.
Yes,
Right.
and where I think that's where I think you're confusing is you're putting that into a separate category as a belief in anything else, and I don't know how
No, you are. You're actually. Well, no, you're right. No, I apologize. You did get that right. So yes, religious positions are only to deal with religions, either for or against God. And I think it's superfluous and a straw man argument to try to categorize anything else outside of religion as some sort of whatever you want to call it. It's just
But you're
when we're talking about religion, we're talking about religious positions. That's it. It's as simple as that.
that doesn't make any sense, Joel. A position is either believed to be something. Somebody makes a proposition like
But
whales
we're not
exist.
talking about generalized beliefs. We're talking about religious beliefs. We're only talking about the
No,
belief in God. Right now.
that's special pleading that religious
not.
beliefs are somehow separate from any other belief position one can accept.
That's not
any
so
proposition.
Special pleading, like I told you earlier, requires that you
No, special
basically
pleading
contradict your own statement because
no,
you've been
you're
proven
making
false.
this a
We're
separate-
not making any
Joel,
contradictions.
you're literally following the actual thing of a special pleading. You're saying that these propositions are believed differently in this category as compared to any other propositions that are being made, because we're arguing about
all you're
religious
doing is you're
positions.
taking a generalization and you're refusing to acknowledge the fact that there is such a thing called religion. That's all you've done. You want
That
to
is not-
believe that the negative religious position on God is not a religion. That's all you're trying to do.
No, I'm trying to say that I'm trying to get to the crux of why you believe that there are certain positions. A person believes certain position on God. That's different because it's a religious belief as
Yes.
compared to believing the propositions of anything else outside of religion.
Well, again, you can do that, like I've already stated. You can believe that your TV is your religion, but it's just I don't care to talk with people that want to believe that TVs or Bigfoots could be God.
Well,
I'm only willing to focus on
can
those
I
that are-
interrupt you guys?
Wow.
I think, can I interrupt you guys? I think we can move on and say that a belief, it can be categorized in blind belief, which is unwarranted belief, that you believe something without having any reason whatsoever to believe it, but you do it so based on emotional grounds or preference or whatever. And there is a rational belief, that is a belief about something that cannot be proven to be right, but you have good evidence that leads to that conclusion which you cannot prove, but which rationally makes sense.
Yeah, you're talking about like a justification for belief claims as compared to demonstration.
Yes, correct.
which
'Cause if
still
somebody-
applies to religious beliefs for or against God.
Because if
Yes,
somebody says,
whatever, Joel. But what I want to say is this: in order to make any proposition in regards of reality and ontology, if you want to justify it, you need to have good reasons to either infer materialism or theism.
Yes. Yeah. Again, I like to summarize it. People either worship the creator or the creation.
Yes, would you agree with
No.
that, Jay?
no, because I don't think worship is necessary for anything.
That's irrelevant.
Okay, whatever. But do you understand where I'm trying to go, Jay?
Oh, I didn't have a problem with that. Yeah, but and what you're saying makes sense. It's the position one takes on given things. When presented with
Exactly.
something, they
So-
take the position that they accept it in certain ways.
So if you want to propose that materialism is a better explanation of reality, then you cannot say, oh, because the Bible is false or because religion is not sound, therefore materialism is true. No, what you need to do is,
I'm not a materialist.
okay, but okay,
I
so
might be close
so
to being I might be close to being a methodological naturalist or a methodological materialist, but I'm not a materialist. I don't simply I don't go off the idea that the supernatural cannot be known, because we still don't know.
so what is your position, Jay? What do you propose here?
He just stated it. He just stated what his position was, that he literally bases his religious beliefs on what he doesn't know.
No. Well, we base a lot of things on what we know and what we don't know.
Yeah, so can you
I know-
clarify again?
How
Sorry,
do you know
maybe
what you
I
don't
have
know?
not listened, but can you?
Well, I know I
can
can't
you-
swim. I don't know how
We're
to
not talking
swim.
about
I know
swimming, we're
I
talking
don't
about what you
know.
know versus what
I-
you don't know.
Yes, but I know I don't know how to swim.
That's another just generalized negative statement that has nothing to do with knowledge.
Yes, because it can be yes, because I can demonstrate that I can't swim. Because if I go in the water,
All right,
I
so
don't
you
know how
know
to
you
swim.
can't swim is not the same as you don't know you can't swim.
I do know I can't swim because,
Okay, so that's a
but
positive
I do
knowledge.
know
You're
that I don't
mixing
know
apples
how
and
to
oranges
swim.
again, buddy.
So what
I
is?
do know that I don't know how to swim.
Okay, so Jay, let me ask you, what is your proposal with us? What
I
do
don't
you
have one.
propose? Okay,
I don't have one.
so what is the purpose that you are talking to us?
I just challenge the belief in I used to be a Christian theist. I was raised as one.
Okay,
And I just have the conversation about I like to have the conversation about how we come to believe what we believe and why God is necessary for anything, or any gods would be necessary for anything.
okay.
I'd like to talk about consequential versus inconsequential beliefs. I don't think that we necessarily need to worship anything. So
So you're a false convert. You're claiming
what's a false convert? A false convert.
somebody that believes in Jesus and the words that Christ taught about, especially about how nobody can come to the Father except through Him, and how none of His sheep can leave. You know, He won't be able to lose any of His sheep, things like that. But so you believed that, but then you didn't believe it, so you're a false convert. Kind of basic. You know, I don't know how to make it more simple.
Some Christians, if you talk to some theists, once saved, always saved. No, I believe I still don't have a problem with the teachings of Jesus.
Well, you're So again, Jesus said that once you become a believer, not only can you not become one, but if you did, then you're not only calling Jesus a liar, but yourself as well.
Okay, that's fine.
I'm trying not to complicate it.
Okay, that's fine. If
So
that's what you want to
you're
hold to,
false convert.
I don't really care. I just said that some Christians don't see it the same way you do, but that's fine.
Well, that would be irrelevant since Christianity is based on Christ, not.
I'm just telling you what other Christians have told me.
Well, that would again, if any Christian contradicts the origination of Christianity, that would make them anti-Christian.
You would have to argue with them. I don't know how they justify it. I don't know how they justify it, but I know two of them that do believe that.
Okay, well that's actually extremely irrelevant because again, Christians, quote unquote, that contradict Christ are antichrist.
And like I said, I don't care.
Well, that's fine. We're trying to get to your position, and I wanted to keep it nice and simple. You're saying that you're a false convert.
If that's what you want to say, I guess I was a false convert.
Well, that's not what I want to say. We're trying to get to your position. We're just trying to clarify your belief.
I was a believer, and I firmly believed in Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior. I firmly believed in the Christian God up until about the age of 30. I probably started questioning my beliefs, probably when I was in my late 20s. But I still held on to those beliefs. I started questioning them a lot more when I hit probably my mid 30s, and it was probably about 7 or 8 years of questioning why I believed what I believed, and looking into different arguments and reading different things, and I eventually became I didn't want to be, but I became convinced that I no longer believed God or gods to exist.
So, what evidence did you have for your belief?
I didn't have a belief. What evidence? The evidence of Of my belief in what? In Christ?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, the
Or
Bible.
God. Hmm?
The Bible.
That's not
Well,
very
Jay,
good.
you are precisely the description of a trajectory which I said before. You were previously supposedly a Christian, then you started to doubt about the Christian faith, and in a long
No,
process of
Antangelo, I didn't
deconversion.
just start. No, I didn't just stick to the Christian faith. I was looking into all God propositions and all sorts of theistic propositions and how I could justify why it is I justify those.
I'd like to just quickly clarify. So the Bible is simply a historical and scientific book. It's just a collection of evidence of data. So to say that you
Well,
base your belief in things based on a science and history book, that's basically saying how your current belief in such things like evolution and other things you've mentioned are also just based on books. So that's not. I don't think that's good evidence. You know, what did you do to test outside of any history or science book to confirm
why would
your
I need to test for
understanding of
something?
God?
Why would I need to test for anything?
Because that's how we do science.
Because I was taught to believe in
Avoid
God
blind
based
faith.
on. I was taught to believe in God based on faith.
Okay, so the Bible says to always have a reason for your belief in 1 Peter 3:15, among other things. And that faith is simply just the evidence of things that you know to believe, things you can't see. So
And the substance of things hoped for. Yeah, that's Paul's
well,
definition.
right, the things that are unseen. So, but it still the Bible still requires for you to always have evidence. So for someone to tell you that you need to believe things without evidence,
Well,
like atheism does, that is anti-biblical.
okay, so I needed to have evidence. I needed to have evidence for God. What evidence should I give them other than my own faith
Where I'm
in that
asking
deity?
for when you get baptized, for example, that's supposed to be your public declaration that you have evidence that God exists. Therefore, you want to obey God. Otherwise, it's just a show. It's just a social thing, a social event. Just going through the hoops for no reason.
Yeah, this is probably one of the reasons why I got out of being a Christian is because
Okay.
the evidence didn't. I didn't.
So that's your
believed in-
confession that you never believed the Bible, you never believed Christ. You just
Yes, I did. I just,
lied.
I,
No,
I,
dude,
dude,
you just
you're
contradicted
not,
it.
Joel. No, you don't seem to understand that beliefs aren't adamant. They're not monolithic. They change over time. We should challenge what we
Right.
believe.
So that's what I'm trying to ask. What evidence did you have for your beliefs in the past?
I believed it because I was indoctrinated into it. Is
Okay,
another
that's
reason
not-
why.
That's
I wasn't.
not belief.
You got to
That's
understand, Joel. Let me give you a little history before you go on.
No, I'm sorry. I don't want to go into all that. I apologize. All you did is confess that you were indoctrinated in the past. Now you're indoctrinated today.
No, I'm not
You just
indoctrinated.
confess that you don't base things on evidence.
Here's the thing. You're getting awfully adversarial here, and I don't know
No,
why.
I just don't want to go onto these rabbit trails. I apologize.
Well, to me, talking about gods is an interesting topic, but it's almost to me it's just inconsequential
Well,
belief
that's because
anyway.
you just confessed you never rely on evidence. You rely on pure blind faith and indoctrination. That's all you've told us today.
No,
That makes
that's why,
sense that you don't
dude.
want to believe in
I
one
already
thing or the
know.
other.
Okay,
Let
now
me-
you're just
let me-
being
All
no.
I care about is evidence. I want
Now-
to know why somebody decided to believe something. That's all.
Okay.
Now
let me
now
just-
you are actually getting somewhere. I just said in my statement that was probably one of the reasons. That's probably one of the things that helped convince me to get out of the religious faith because I didn't have good justifications. It wasn't even just about good evidence. I didn't even have
understand
good
that. Don't worry.
justification.
No,
Hold
I
on.
understand that, and I can
Hold
respect
on.
that.
But I did not listen to me. God damn it, man.
Well, I just again we're wasting so much
let
time
me
already. Dude.
freaking finish, dude. You are worse than you're almost as bad as Smokey. Let me finish. My God.
Go ahead. Go ahead, Jay. Go ahead, Jay.
Jay has.
Go ahead, Jay, please.
Holy shit, I'm getting tired and you brought me in here to have a conversation and I can't even clarify without Joel trying to stick me with something.
Okay, Jay,
If
I
this is just going to wait, no, I'm sorry, but if this is going to be, hey, let's gang up on the atheist today with, I'm going to put you in this light. No, I'm not dealing with Joel's weird games of evidence and shit.
All right, fine.
Okay, we're all ears.
Guys, I want to mute you both. I want to give the time to Jay to just make his point. Please, Jay, go ahead.
What you were bringing up, Joel, is probably one of the reasons that I got out of my belief in Christianity. because I didn't have good justification. Once I started learning a little bit more about philosophy and logic and stuff like that, and epistemology, and started getting introduced to it, because I didn't learn those things as a kid. I trusted that what my parents were telling me about God and Jesus were true. I didn't convert to Christianity. There was no time in my life when I was a kid that I ever converted to Christianity. I believed it from the very time my parents could introduce us to the concept, and we eventually just started understanding more of how that religion worked based on how they believed it and the people that we worshiped with. And over time, when I started questioning my beliefs and how I could justify my belief in the Christian God or any God, I became basically deist, where I accepted the idea that that's probably a thing that a God or gods to exist, but maybe they don't intervene. So I kept looking. But the best position I can take tentatively from my belief position when it comes to gods is I believe that they exist as concepts. I believe that mankind has been searching for God. We have come up with all sorts of God concepts over millennia. However, in that justification, I believe we have not demonstrated these things as being necessary in the reality that we observe. Now, am I open to somebody demonstrating it necessarily? Great. But I still remain not convinced.
Okay, Jay. First of all, what you need to do is to ask yourself, what are the signs of things that only intelligence can do, which unguided random events are unable to do? You need to make that contrast. And as I said before starting with the Bible and any organized religion, the first question is there a God or rather no God? And I described that God as an intelligent being, as an intelligent designer, as an agent, which makes things based on his intelligence. So the question is, if we look into the natural world, can we see signs or a signature of action of intelligence which acted in the past to form the universe, life, and biodiversity? So you have to ask yourself, Jay, what are the things that intelligence can do, which non-intelligence or very remotely or impossible can do? Have you asked yourself that question and made that contrast?
Yes.
Okay, so can you give an example of something that only intelligence can do, which random, unguided occurrences cannot do?
I don't believe that things that are happening in the universe are necessarily random.
Okay.
Because I don't know what exactly is the necessary thing that caused everything to come into being.
Well,
right?
I
just
gave you the possibilities. There are basically two. Either there was at the bottom of reality, as Joel said correctly, a necessary first being, an intelligent creator, or not. That is the framework upon to which we work. If there is a third possibility or more possibilities, point them out, please.
Because, well, one of your possibilities only means one creator. So the problem with the analogy...
It can be many creators, Jay. Well, we put them in one of the two buckets. If you want to propose many creators or a multitude of creators, they are still intelligent creators. So they go all into the bucket of intelligent creator, singular or multiple. So that is still the framework of two possibilities. Either there was a creator or multiple creators, or there was not. That's the framework. If you have a third possibility, please mention it.
The third possibility is we don't know.
So why to work with something that we don't know? Why?
The third possibility, the best way to say is if there's no way, if there doesn't seem to be a way, I'm not going to say there's no way, but if there doesn't seem to be a current way to be able to actually understand what a God is, clearly defined.
I just said to you.
I get that.
You can describe just God as an intelligent, conscient, powerful, eternal creator. That's it.
And if that's the case, then we can say that there's many of them, right?
Okay, that is a possibility. We can start with that.
Is it the possibility that those are not the case?
There's a possibility you're an AI chatbot. This is ridiculous.
Now, the other
Well,
possibility
it is possible
is
that we're living in an AI if you hold to solipsism.
And that you're
Sure.
just you're a figment of our imaginations. Look,
Well,
all
you're
I
Then you-
subjective. Well,
earlier,
hold on.
if
Joel,
I may,
Joel,
I-
hold
if
on.
I
Hold on.
cut
If
to
you're a
the chase,
subjective idealist, if you're a
you-
subjective
I just wanted
idealist
to
like
correct
Praise,
I
he
wanted
believes
to
that
correct the
everything is in
record.
existence. in
You
a
were
sense.
never a confessed Christian, and everything you're going by right now is blind faith. I just wanted to get that out so that we can.
Joel,
get
please don't go. This is why I don't like this, dude. You're
It
wanting to
doesn't
tag
matter
me
what
with
you
labels.
like. This is
The
logic.
labels, dude.
Logic
fine.
doesn't require your feelings, buddy. And I'm not trying to be offensive. I'm just basing. I'm getting to the
Dude,
raw.
it has nothing to do with. It has
We-
nothing to do with my feelings.
forward.
It has nothing to do with my feelings. Now I'm getting upset with you
You just said
because.
it was.
Well, then I misspoke. What it
Okay.
is I don't think that this helps you by trying to tack on labels on me for some weird reason. I don't have a problem with the labels, but I don't think it gets you any further in actually having an honest dialogue, because what you're doing is you're just basically saying, well, this is my assessment of you. And then when I say, I don't agree with that, you just double
No.
down and keep asserting it.
We're going off your labels, Jay. You labeled yourself as a Christian. I just corrected the fact that you're not, or you weren't. And so all we care about right now is what you believe. We're trying to get to know you, Jay. We're trying to get you with
Joel,
true, honest,
Joel,
logical statements, not just based on what
Joel,
you want us to know. We want to know for real.
Joel, I was honest with it. I was just honest. I just got done explaining this.
Right. And so
I
everything
honestly,
that you
I
told us
listened.
shows
Okay.
that you confessed that you did not believe in Christ. You were just
I
you
did.
believed what
Yes,
you were told.
yes, I did.
So you're probably doing that now. Would be on my contention.
If you
But I
don't
don't
know,
care about that. All I
you
want
are,
to
you are,
we want to help
Joel,
get you to a singular
Joel,
step.
can
There is
I please finish? Because
only if you want to be the bully that you claim I am, dude. Again, we're trying to get to know you, and to do that,
no, you're
requires.
not. No, you are not, Joel. Do
Yes,
not lie.
we are. Yes, I am. You're not
No,
wanting
you
to
are not.
anybody else but you.
Okay, guys, I will do following. I muted you both. I will moderate this. I will give two minutes.
I don't need to do this. I mean,
it's difficult. You are interrupting each other, and that doesn't lead anywhere. So either I moderate this and I give 2 minutes to each one of you guys to make the point, or this is not going anywhere.
I've already talked to Jay. It just goes round in circles, round and round in circles.
Yeah.
So you guys can go ahead.
Exactly. I was hoping to fast forward to get to an actual conversation. It's not going to happen.
All I honestly wanted to clarify is the problem with saying that I never believed in Christianity or believed in Jesus Christ is you assuming that you know what I believed when I was younger, what was going on in my mind.
I went only by what you said.
And
so
what
to
I
be
said
a Christian requires to have positive evidence that Christ is real and it is evident in your life, and the works that you do based on your faith in Christ are evident. That's all basic Christian, whatever you want to call it. And so you said that never happened to you. So I'm not doing anything other than just reflecting.
I believe
to us to understand where you're at.
I believed up to a point until I started challenging my beliefs, but I sincerely believed what I believed. And when you said, hold on, when you said, but you're saying that you didn't have evidence for God. And I said, and I said, you're right. When I realized that I didn't have good evidence to believe in God, that's when I really started challenging and thinking about things. Right. And that led me to a position of believing that God's to not exist. But I am okay.
That's fine.
But
That's not my contention. My contention is that you claimed to have evidence for Christ, and you keep confessing that you didn't. That's all.
My evidence wasn't good evidence. My evidence, what I thought my evidence was, I thought my evidence was my upbringing.
Can we move forward? I think, Jay, that you have gone the trajectory through which I described before, and I think if you want to frame a solid epistemological framework, you need to start with the first question, which is either there is a God or there are no gods, single or plural. That is the first question. And in order to figure that out, you need to ask yourself, what are the signs of intelligence, of things that intelligence can do, which non-intelligence cannot do? And then you have to look around you, look around the evidence, the natural world, and check if there are signs of intelligent action in the past. And in order to do that, you need to figure out what are the signs of intelligence. And that's why I asked you, did you ask yourself once, what are the things that only intelligence can do? So do you have an example of things that only intelligence can do, which non-intelligence cannot do?
Not without presupposing our own observance of things that what we observe in reality. So what we observe in reality is we observe that we can create things. We have minds. We create things. We see things that are in nature that create them, through the act of reproduction and stuff like that, natural processes and stuff. What we don't have to demonstrate. So we go off of our what we're observing, at least as best as our senses can tell us. This is what we're observing in reality. We create things. We think things up. We can conceptualize things. We can conceptualize things that we can't even create or design, right? But by believing that, by holding to that, what we do is now we look at all of the reality, all the world, the reality that we see, and then we just superimpose. Well, maybe there's something like us, but better, bigger than us, out there that is necessary for the origin of all those things. And that's not necessarily an answer that we need to go to, because we could just say that we don't know, right? Because we're basing this on our own observance and how our own minds work. We don't know if we don't see trees being created from nothing.
So
we are confined to this reality that we all seem to be sharing.
So what I would like to say is that you basically do not trust your own mind and your thoughts.
His own evidence, right? And that's an appeal to ignorance to say I don't know.
Do you not trust your own observation? Do you not trust your own observations, Jay? What you can detect in reality, you don't trust that?
Yes, yes, but I still question what I observe in reality. Perception can be an interesting thing, right? Even when we're using our senses, it goes into like Hume's problem of induction. We're presupposing that our own senses are reliable, and that leads to a circular reasoning.
If you don't do that, you fall into nihilism, and then you have just to constate, oh, I cannot know anything for sure.
No, not necessarily. No, you're being a little bit more skeptical, but there are things that we understand that we all seem to share in, and we kind of hold to those observations and build off of that.
Oh,
good. Okay, so let's suppose that you see a machine, and you have no idea whatsoever what made that machine. And you have two options. One is that an intelligence made that machine for a specific purpose, or that just natural forces like wind and rain and so forth over a long period of time assembled that machine. What is the better explanation?
The best explanation is considering the fact that we're looking at a machine, which is something that is a word that's used to define something in the state of affairs that we exist in. It's something that we know that we design and that we have also created. I would basically, if I saw an engine, come to probably the position that since this is a machine, it was designed by humans.
Good. So we can characterize a machine as a device made for a specific purpose, assembled of several mutually interacting parts, and which function together and interact together. Would that be more or less a good description which I'm giving you?
It still presupposes that because we have an observation of things, because we know that we have made machines, and when we see a machine, we think that we would. The best way to say it is we see a machine, we go, that's probably like let's say, what kind of machine? Like a basic machine. Let's say like a catapult. That's a basic machine. We look at certain machines in certain ways. Certain machines have certain titles based on their function, which we understand in the reality that we observe. So what we're doing is we're taking from this reality that we observe and then saying, well, maybe there's something, again, going back to what I said, there's this something greater, or there's these other things that must be out there that created all of the universe. Because let's
just keep to the machine, Jay. I described a machine as a device which was made for a specific purpose and which is made of several small parts which interact together, and they together in a joint venture they produce that function which it was made for.
Well, the problem is you're using the term purpose, and purpose is something that we basically add to it. So I can use the purpose of scissors is, from how we design them, is to trim things or for like sewing and cutting fabric or whatever. But I can use scissors for the purpose of killing someone or even cutting steak.
Yes, of course, but with purpose, I mean, of course, you can take a hammer, for example, if you made it to nail things, but you can use it also to kill someone. But a car, you can, of course, using it to drive from A to B, but you can also use it, for any other purpose, but it was not intended for. Of course, you can do that. You can take a piston. A piston of an engine was made for a specific purpose in the car engine, but you can take it and use it as an ashtray, of course. But we can recognize that the piston was made for the specific purpose with the right dimensions in the car engine. Would you agree with that?
Yes, because we have designed and used pistons.
Okay, so we know
pistons and engines.
Okay, so we know that intelligence makes things for specific purposes, and machines are made for specific purposes and are made of several interacting
but not necessarily an inherent purpose. It's not necessarily an inherent purpose.
It is made, well, as I said to you, a piston, it is made with the specific sizes for the specific purpose to work into
yes,
the
it's based on
engine of the
displacement,
car.
how much power you want, and
Yes,
and all
correct.
that.
Of course, you can remove it, and then you can use it as an ashtray, but you will not make a piston to use it for an ashtray.
Yes, but you can make an engine.
You can use a stone as an ashtray, but you will not make a piston with the specific sizes and everything else to use it as an ashtray. You make it to be used in the engine, correct?
Yes, based on the fact that we have made engines to do that.
Okay, so we know that intelligence makes specific parts of an engine, of a motor or a machine with a specific purpose, with the right sizes and everything else, correct?
Within what we want them to do, yeah.
Yes, with what we want them to do. And random occurrences would not do a piston for a specific purpose in a machine, correct?
And this is where you're going to go to the flagellum.
It is just an example, yes. Not necessarily to the flagellum, but to any molecular machine which we observe in life. And I want to quote you from Herschel. He said, "If the analogy of two phenomena be very close and striking, while at the same time the cause of one is very obvious, it becomes scarcely possible to refuse to admit the action of an analogous cause in the other, tough, not so obvious itself." What does that mean? What we have is molecular machines which work analogously to human-made machines. Why? Because, for example, an ATP synthase has the specific purpose to make cell energy, to make ATP, which is used as energy in the cell. And it is composed of several interacting parts which have to fit together in order to have the purpose to make ATP, which is used in the cell as energy. And ATP synthase is a molecular machine which had to emerge prebiotically. You cannot make it by evolution because evolution depends on ATP synthase and on life.
Again, you're presupposing even if I were to concede right now that it necessarily requires that there's some intelligence behind the origin of all things.
Yeah, concede right now.
We're just
Can-
intelligence behind design framework.
Can you demonstrate which intelligent designer it is?
Okay,
Yes.
The
before,
God of the
before that,
Bible.
just let me answer that. Before we move on, Jay, to that question, which is another question, I would like to ask you, do you rather believe that an intelligence is behind all reality, the physical world, at the bottom, the first cause, the necessary cause, or do you rather believe that unguided natural random mechanisms are the better explanations?
No, because I don't agree with that dilemma.
Okay,
I can just simply say I don't know, and I'll wait to see. I'll wait to see if there's more.
So is there rationally another possibility? I would say no, Jay. There are no other possibilities. Ontologically speaking, there are basically just two possibilities. Either there is a God or there is no God at the bottom of reality.
Okay, let me ask you something, if I may. This is your channel, and I apologize for earlier for swearing. I was getting frustrated with Joel trying to just seem like he wanted to peg me into a corner for some
Just
weird
trying to
reason.
clarify your positions, buddy.
Yeah, what's up, everyone?
Yeah, well,
Hi, good morning.
Breathing on their mic.
Oh, this might be.
Uh,
Yeah, go ahead, Jay.
so this is one of the interesting things about this is if let's say if I were to believe if I believed killer whales to not exist, can I exist in this reality without having to believe that?
That's a straw man.
I'm asking on Tangelo.
Okay, well that's
I'm
rude.
sorry. I'm
be
sorry. I was
eternal.
distracted. I'm sorry.
That
I
would
was
be
distracted.
eternal.
What?
Yeah,
I
ask me
have.
again, please.
All right.
If
wanna
I
ask a
believe,
question after.
do you want me to repeat it on Tangelo?
Yes, I was distracted. Sorry.
Oh, that's fine.
He wants to say if he doesn't believe in unicorns, if he can still exist.
No, that's not what I said.
Well, whales, unicorns, leprechauns,
No,
rainbows.
no, unicorns are
Fairies.
different. I'm actually going with something that we actually have seen in the state
Yeah,
of affairs.
unicorns are real. What are you talking
Okay.
about?
So,
Yeah, purple one.
So make your question, please, Jay.
okay, if I believe killer whales to not exist, is that consequential to anything or inconsequential?
In what sense?
Can I live my life perfectly fine, exist in this reality, while still believing killer whales to not exist?
Oh, yes, you can.
Okay.
Yeah, it's fallacious to think that your basis in reality is based on your own beliefs.
Yeah.
But it's
That's
Yes,
perfectly
go ahead,
fine to
Jay.
refuse
Go
it.
ahead, Jay. Go ahead, Jay. What is your point?
So, why is God necessary for me to believe in?
Well, he is not. I mean, you can live your life without him. The question is if you want to live a purposeful life or not.
And I would argue just follow the evidence.
And the question is also,
Now, Joel,
uh,
you think that
question
there's
is
evidence for something that's self-evident, which is just weird to me.
Well,
That's
once,
bizarre.
once you have evidence for something that's becomes self-evident, like I explained to
No,
you,
something that is
with
self-evident.
the American founders claim to King George, they believed that their fundamental right, God-given rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness
That's not a
were
good way of using
self-evident
that
rights.
argument. That's not good for your argument because they were writing a letter to appeal to somebody that basically believed that he was chosen by God to grant people certain
Right.
rights.
And so that was
Right.
the counter argument that he's not God and that the actual
Yes,
God
and they
gives us
recognize
these
certain inalienable
self-evident
rights
rights.
to be self-evident. Yes,
You're-
that they're
you're not
basically
even listening.
obvious. There's
You're
no
jumping on me
evidence.
now.
There's no evidence needed
I
for
can't
something.
hear you talking over me, Jay.
Oh, I
May-
thought you were done. I'm sorry.
Jay, may I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
What evidence leads you to not believe in a God?
It wasn't no evidence. It was my lack of being able to justify why I believed the Christian God to exist.
Okay, so what type of evidence would you accept for the Christian God to be there?
If you could interact with it like a baby interacting with a dog.
So you would like a special revelation?
No, I
order
would
to
like
accept God.
I would like the idea of discovery of the object, not just the acceptance of the concept and then try to lead to the object.
Well, God is not an object, really. It's a spirit.
Well,
If it has traits, I mean, what is it? If it's
Well,
then it's nothing. It has it. So we can conceptualize
reality.
something without it
we
being
don't
a
really
reality.
we
Well,
don't
It's
really know
reality.
we don't really know what God is. We know it's a spirit and he exists outside of everything. and he's always being there. He's eternal.
Yeah,
Joel
he is
says
what
no
it
help
is.
for it.
He is
Yeah,
who
well,
I am. When
in science, we understand that all of our reactions, all of our interactions, everything that we observe is the actual evidence that we're interacting with God, the Creator.
That's special
Yeah.
pleading.
No, it's
I
not
mean-
special pleading. Again, special pleading always requires that someone changes their position after it's been proven
You're
wrong.
saying that
So
Christianity
you are
requires
constantly
something.
making a false
You're
accusation.
saying that
along
science.
with
You're saying that science necessarily requires Christianity. That is special pleading. You're
No,
putting.
it's not. And nor did I make that claim, and that's not the definition of special pleading. You are
Yes,
wrong.
because you're putting it in a special category, dude.
No, it's not.
Yes, you
Again,
are.
all you did is put words in my mouth.
You are putting it into a separate category that it is necessary that
I never
science
said
only be done
anything
within
about
a Christian
Christianity.
framework.
though he never said that, though,
He
Jay.
has been saying it. He says Christian.
No, you are arguing with people who don't exist right now, Jay.
What are you talking about? I believe you guys
You are
exist.
arguing with people not in this
Oh.
room.
How can you know that we exist?
He's arguing with his imagination.
Yeah, exactly.
Here's the
I mean,
definition of special pleading, everybody. You moved the goalposts or made an exception when your claim was shown to be false.
Okay, Smokey.
I'm not Smoky. You don't
Yes,
need to
you're
insult
acting like
people.
Smokey.
You don't need
Okay,
to start
you
causing
guys-
a dominant fallacy
Okay.
on top of your
Okay.
lack of
Let's
interest
step, Joel.
accurate
Let's step,
methodological
Joel.
fallacies, buddy.
Let's step back just a little bit. Let's
Why don't
just,
you listen to what I said and respond to what I said
I
instead of
know,
all this distraction?
because here's the thing. When I want to go off of what I can't make out his name, the guy at the bottom that asked me.
yeah, you can call me Will.
Okay, well, so here's the thing. People can come up with concepts all day long. Now,
Including
there's
you.
a thing in philosophy where you have concepts and you have objects. We understand that there are things that exist when we're born, we're basically uninitiated in just about everything, right? We're taking in reality the first time we come into existence.
And
My
as
thing
well.
about deity, so one of the interesting things is when you see a baby interact with a dog, like the baby's crawling along on the floor and it interacts with a dog. The baby has no concept of that dog. They don't even know what it is, but they can interact with that dog. Now, eventually, as the child gets older, they start to learn and understand things based on what their parents and siblings are, telling them. So they learn to identify dog. Why do we call it dog? Because it has these certain kind of traits and blah, 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 blah. So now they attach a concept to the thing that they're interacting with in reality. People can discover something in the state of affairs without having any concept, like dinosaurs. When people discovered dinosaurs, they discovered them. They didn't say, "Oh, I believe dinosaurs to exist," and then went out looking for them. They
The
discovered
Bible was
them,
speaking
and
about
then
dinosaur before the app.
they came up with a conceptualization and way of defining these things that they observed in reality that they had discovered.
Some of
So
us already knew about dinosaurs.
So may
Wait.
I ask you real quick, Jay? Are you an atheist,
I
agnostic?
didn't want to change subjects for guys. I wanted to
All right,
to
yeah, you can-
confirm, Jay, is a good summary you're saying basically that if you cover your eyes and you can't see the child interact with the dog, therefore the child and the dog don't exist?
No, that's ridiculous.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That sounds like the summary you just made, that you're
No.
basing things on what you think you see.
No, it's not.
therefore God
No,
doesn't
no.
exist because you
No.
can't see God.
Joel, no, I'm talking about us being the baby.
Then again, that's still basing things on what you want to say is anecdotal.
No, the baby we interact with things in reality as we discover them. What I'm saying is that I believe gods exist as the concepts that they're being portrayed as. What I believe also is that these concepts are not attached to any objects that we observe in the state of affairs.
Right, and so you're
Basically,
basing
we have
observation of objects, which
Right.
like a 3rd-year-old, they'll literally cover their eyes or cover their ears to deny that something is existing. That's your summary right now.
no, that is not my summary.
Yes, it is.
No, it is not.
You have to
No,
explain.
once
it better,
we're,
because that's the only thing I can grasp from what you're sharing.
listen to me, Joel. You're
I'm
being
trying.
disingenuous. I know. Okay, hold on. As we start learning about the things because we have no choice in this. We are
Yeah.
here. We seem
Yeah.
to be experiencing some form of reality. And when we're
Oh.
young and we're not initiated in concepts, there are things that we interact with that we don't know the concepts that relate to those particular objects. It's when
Yeah,
we
follow
as we
the
grow,
evidence.
as we
Exactly.
grow, we now we learn the concepts that are attached to the objects and the reality that we're now observing.
So
I
all of
follow
that,
But I
you.
see with Christianity,
all of that is factually incorrect, given the fact that we can choose what we want to accept as true or not, as you're demonstrating.
we don't choose our beliefs, dude.
Yes, we do.
Yeah, there you are.
In fact, you
No,
just did.
can you choose to be gay right now?
Yes,
Okay, so you can choose to be attracted to men.
absolutely.
Yep.
Okay, I don't believe you.
You can
It doesn't
choose
matter
to
what
eat
you
a
believe.
burger. Can you choose to eat a burger?
Everything you choose, everything you do.
Yeah,
You can
exactly. You
choose
have free
that you
will.
are a purple
Can you
dinosaur.
choose to be an atheist right now?
Yep.
Yes.
If you want.
Okay, do it.
All atheists choose to be an atheist.
Can you
No.
choose to drink water right now?
That's different.
Well, how is it different?
Necessarily.
You can
how
choose
is
to
it-
drink water. I can, if I
Okay.
don't drink water, then I'm just going to continue being thirsty.
Yeah, but you can choose not to drink
Yes,
water.
but that's something based in the state of affairs.
Well,
Which
how
some
is
may
it
be.
how is it different from choosing to be an atheist or choosing
I don't
to
have
do
to.
water?
I'm not.
You're still interacting in order to do something, so you're choosing
Yeah.
what you want to do. So I
But I
could go eat a burger when I was planning
Yeah.
to eat noodle, right?
Okay, so now you're just basically saying that beliefs in God can be just basically as arbitrary.
Absolutely.
Cool. Then we don't. Then you guys have convinced me. Gods are perfectly arbitrary, and we don't have to
Right.
believe in them necessarily.
The difference
Oh,
is
yeah.
that
No, you don't
You're
have to
God.
believe in God.
Christians base their beliefs of God based on scientific evidence versus atheists, as you just confessed, don't.
Joel, you still
all
think that self-evident is brought about by evidence.
Right. So that's
Something
why we
that's
use
self-evident-
actual confirmable evidence that makes it then become self-evident once you've confirmed the evidence. You constantly keep making that same mistake over and
Joel,
over.
something that is self-evident is self-evident of itself, not self-evident to us.
No, it's
it is-
incorrect.
It
Just
is
because
something that is obvious.
self-evident to
You
itself
know what an example?
doesn't mean that we can't observe the evidence.
Red is a color is self-evident.
And we can observe that something is red. You're right.
Yes,
You're
except for people who are red and green colorblind, or red colorblind.
Oh,
That's
Jay, I see that very often, that mistake which atheists make. They say, oh, we can see the natural world. But what is a different question than to ask, how did the natural world come to be? You need to make that distinction in regards of
No,
question.
Antangelo, you're making a mistake. I don't have to make the distinction. I can just
Right.
simply say, I don't know.
He doesn't
Now, if
want
somebody
Right.
brings
No,
about,
he wants to see the natural world being created.
Jay, are you neutral about God or are you denying God?
that's the same position.
well, to some, sure.
Well, I make the argument that
I don't like. It depends on how you're using denial. Normally, denial means that you believe something to be true, but you're saying that you don't believe it anyway. That's
So, Hey,
Overused.
I think your I don't know is fallacious, because if you have an option of 1 million different things to choose from, and then you saying, okay, that's a huge number to choose from, I really don't know which one makes sense. But when it comes down to just 2 options, when you can choose either to there is a God or there is no God, then you have just 2 options to choose from.
no,
So
you
you-
don't.
yes, you do.
No,
I mean,
you have
Religious agnosticism, everybody, requires the belief that God does not exist well enough to doubt that he does.
we'll go around like a bird up in
What
the
was that?
sky.
Hmm.
I missed
I
that.
like how Lennox put it, what you're trying to convey the best.
I don't think that your I don't know option is justified, because rationally we can really only choose between 2 options. Either there is a God or there is no God. That's it.
Sure,
Do you agree
Yeah,
with
I
that?
like-
but if we're accepting it based on belief, if we're just simply saying, "Oh, I believe it's the case that God exists, and this is my rational justification," and you can't demonstrate to me why it is necessary, then I'm perfectly fine with my belief position until you demonstrate why it's necessary.
Okay.
If you're
Doesn't-
saying that believing in this God,
Jay,
if
we
you're
came
saying-
We're not
that
trying to convince you,
question.
Jay.
huh?
We're not necessarily trying to convince you or anybody. You just,
Okay.
again, that's a whole different subject change. We're just talking about how we base our beliefs, whether it's on evidence or not.
And,
Okay.
and what
Joel is
evidence
correct
do
in
you
regards
have for
to
your
that.
belief?
Since
Yeah,
you
what
are asking if we have
I'm not
more
an evidentialist, Jumbo
belief,
Jargon.
Yeah, well, then
beliefs
you
don't
need to be,
necessarily-
because then you
What
can't
a-
tell us anything anyway.
beliefs don't necessarily run on evidence. They can run on what we call rational
They-
justification.
Is it?
But it's
That's
but
evidence.
Would it be
That's-
rational?
it's your
evidence.
position,
Would
right?
it be
And it may
rational?
not be. Never mind.
You just literally told us, Jay, that rational justification can exist without evidence. That's irrational to me.
Yes, because you don't have to necessarily take an evidentialist approach.
When
No,
you
there are-
use,
I
speak for
agree
yourself.
with you, Jay.
Whether as
There
a
are
scientist
two
or not, makes
possibilities.
no
Just a
sense.
moment, Joel, please. I agree with you, Jay. You can come to a rational belief based on reason, and you can come to a justified belief based on evidence. For example, I can just reason God as the most logical proposition based on the fact that the universe cannot be eternal and it cannot have a beginning.
Okay.
So therefore, that is just a rational exercise. The 5 ways of Aquinas, they are just a rational exercise which leads you rationally and logically to God. It is not evidence-based. Okay.
Okay, that's fine.
And you can come to God as a rational position to hold based on evidence, like I started to expose. If you see a molecular machine in the natural world, then you have an evidence that you have a device which you have to explain its origin of. And if that device is better explained by an intelligent action, then that is evidence-based belief.
Well, the belief in
Right.
the origin of the thing is knowing that those machines have an origin because they originated from people.
Okay, in regards to human-made machines, I agree with you. But what if you see a molecular machine which is also made for a specific purpose, like ATP synthase, which I mentioned before, which is a
For
tool
another purpose.
with the purpose to make ATP, which is the energy currency in the cell, and is in a literal sense a turbine, a molecular motor, which rotates and is constituted of several interlinked, mutually interacting parts, where if one single part is removed, the motor has no function anymore, and the single parts by itself, they have no function either. And it is a device which could not emerge by evolution, because life and evolution depends on that molecular motor. It had to start to be made
Well, that's-
prebiotically without evolution. So how do you explain the origin of such a device, Jay?
I don't have one.
Yes,
Mhm.
but you can reason if it makes more sense to believe that that molecular machine was made by intelligence rather than
No.
not.
I don't need to lead, but here's the thing.
So,
If there's no demonstration that there's a specific, if you can't
I don't
falsify
have
which,
to demonstrate it. I don't.
okay,
That's
but
the problem.
you're saying-
You are a verificationist or
no,
or-
hold on. But if you're saying, right, if you're saying that this is necessary, then the only thing that you're saying that's really necessary is that there is some kind of intelligence,
okay.
right?
Okay, you
So
are moving
let's say-
forward.
right? So if I say, okay, I can concede that it's necessary that there's some kind of intelligence.
Okay.
Now, upon further examination, now we need to try, maybe we'll try to search to specifically find what that specific intelligence is, correct?
Okay, I got you. That is a second question, Jay. But when I was talking previously, and then the discussion,
I really need
went
to
in
not take my
another
wife
way.
into these
I
conversations.
think it is very important, Jay, before that we move to a second question and try to identify the nature of that creator, that you honestly, seriously, and sincerely are a deist, or that you believe that intelligence is a better causal agency than non-intelligence. If you simply believe that, then yes, then we can move forward. But as long as you say that just hypothetically, but not actually believe that intelligence is a better explanation of the natural world, then it makes no sense to move forward to
Yes,
what
but an intelligence,
the nature
but
of
something, but something that is intelligence doesn't necessarily mean that that intelligence is a god.
But you
Well,
have to
I mean, if-
establish first, before anything, you have to establish that you have a maker before anything else.
I mean, if you go to alien circular reasoning, how did alien become so much complex? I mean, it will be a circular reasoning, so it has to be God.
Well, if you're using inductive reasoning, it can lead to circular reasoning because, like I mentioned before earlier in this, if you get into Hume's problem of induction, where you basically presuppose your own senses are reliable, that's circular reasoning.
But that's what you just claimed. That's how you do things. You observe things as a baby, as you said. So you just contradicted everything you've said tonight.
Yeah.
Well, that's how we get into the problem of induction. That's why I'm not saying it's something that necessarily negates the existence of God. It's just a problem that philosophers have been talking about for a long time, and Hume just happened to put a name to it, and that's why it became Hume's problem of induction, because we presuppose our own senses as being reliable.
That's a different subject from what you were just saying about inductive reasoning.
Yeah.
Yes, because you're inductively you're using inductive. You're presupposing your senses are reliable, which is inductive reasoning, which leads you into the continual cycle of constantly presupposing that your senses are reliable.
Well, because they work.
The baby interacting with the dog example you gave.
Because your senses work. That's why you assume they're reliable, because they work.
Well, but again, that's a hard problem. I'm not saying that I have a solve for that. And I'm not saying that that's necessary. That I didn't say that's a chink in the armor. Sometimes circular reasoning can hold to be a little bit valid. So having something be circular isn't necessarily a bad thing.
That's always a bad thing. It's personal incredulity, which proves that somebody does not care about reality.
Depends on what logic that you're looking at.
It means you're literally making things up for the fun of it. Well, not you personally. I'm saying just the people that hold the positions that you're describing.
Well, you have to be able to inductively presuppose something in order to get into that cycle,
which you just said is unreliable.
I didn't say it was necessarily unreliable. I said the other guy said it was fallacious. You guys are saying it's fallacious.
No,
it's not necessarily fallacious, but it is a hard problem that philosophers have talked about for a long time.
Again, so you're reminding me of Socrates. He says that something about how if you find a good woman, or if you find a good wife, whatever, you can live a happy life, but if you don't have a good wife, you can become a philosopher. Philosophy is largely irrelevant, Jay, especially when it comes to
science. Science is
actual scientific evidence and a real definition of belief, or be able to actually believe something based on it.
What was science called before it was called science?
What's called knowledge, wasn't it?
I don't know. Science always existed, whether people called it.
You don't know what science was called before.
Yeah, wasn't science called knowledge?
It's called natural philosophy.
Science has always been science, just like air has always been air. No matter
science was originally labeled as natural philosophy.
No, it was never labeled that. Natural philosophy is not science, nor is philosophy ever natural. What you just did, actually, Jay, you were actually reminding me that the quote-unquote theory of evolution started as actually called natural theology by the actual creationists that started the theory.
I don't know why you're bringing up evolution.
You have to interrupt constantly.
I don't know why you're bringing up evolution, dude. It's not something
you're making a false dichotomy, or you're making a false statement about what you believe is natural philosophy. I paralleled that, as you've tried to do with other things, how the theories of evolution today are based on what Bill Paley and others that Darwin stole from at Christ College called these theories quote unquote natural theology.
I think you're getting hung up on naturalism instead of just natural philosophy. No, naturalism is not the same as natural philosophy.
I didn't say that. That's a straw man.
Actually, you just agreed. You agreed. I said, I think you're confusing natural philosophy with naturalism, and you said yes.
I'm trying to show that you've confused natural philosophy with science.
Dude, it's right here. Natural philosophy field of study. Natural philosophy, or philosophy of nature, was the philosophical study of nature and the physical universe that was dominant before the development of modern science. It was considered to be the precursor of natural science.
I apologize. I cannot care about your appeal to authority logical fallacy.
That was the accepted definition of natural philosophy.
That's an appeal to popularity logical fallacy.
Okay, so what is science? So when we're using the term science,
science is verifying what's real, what's factual.
Yes, that's what
violated science promote philosophy. They are not the same.
All right, I've had enough, guys. It's late. I need to go to bed, and Joel is getting irritated.
No, I'm not. I'm not irritated at all, Jay. Please do not pretend to read my mind.
Yes, you're irritated, dude. You've had a little bit of that smoky rub off on you.
You're the one that's angry. You're the one's taking up your toys and wanting to go home. I'm wanting to have a good, casual conversation. Sometimes I got to be a little more stern so that I don't, get interrupted.
Okay, Daddy.
Oh,
See, you're the one with the attitude. buddy.
I'm just kidding with you, Joel.
Stuff on
Joel,
me.
I'm
So-
just kidding. Joel, I'm just messing with you.
All right.
I'm just messing with you, dude.
Well, I'm glad. I'm glad
Calm
we got
down.
a sense of humor.
So we have a maker, right? That's the,
No, I don't
the main
believe that
thing we have to
necessarily have
understand
an
before
ultimate
we
maker.
can understand. Nothing will make sense if you don't understand you have a maker. Nothing will make sense. You'll be
Okay,
confused
Jungle.
you'll be confused about everything.
Okay,
You'll live your life in confusion.
I'm confused about everything.
That kind of sums it up.
Thanks, Jungle.
So
Jay,
I-
I
all I
don't
wanted to
make
make
any, Jay, I don't make any accusations against you. I tried just to clarify your position, but
Same.
you are always welcome at my channel. If you want to come another time to continue this discussion, you are welcome, and we can move forward and clarify some things. If
Yeah,
you-
next time it needs to be earlier because it's getting late and I'm tired.
yeah.
It's something
I-
for me, Jay. I
I
again, I
wake up in the
apologize.
morning to open the stream, so
Oh, I apologize too. I apologize too for swearing earlier. I was just getting frustrated because I wanted to be able to clarify, and I think given the fact that I'm tired, I'm not able to really clarify my statements very well.
Fair
I'm
enough.
not in good
Well,
form tonight. And
I
here's the
think-
thing, guys.
Totally understand it and respect that.
I am
I
fine with you
think
guys.
he,
Here's the thing. I am perfectly fine with you guys believing in the Christian God, any God for that matter. I don't honestly care.
I think
don't.
he
I
wanted
will
you.
challenge people on the beliefs or
I
not.
think he wanted you. I think he wanted you to honestly evaluate your belief system, what you believe.
I'm doing it. I'm Jungle Jargon. I'm doing it every day. Just today, I'm not in very good form to be able to clarify.
Well,
all that.
yeah, that's understandable. But I mean,
I've also had my vitamins today. If you get my meaning.
Hopefully someday soon we can have a good convo about it, buddy.
All right.
And everything
That-
that if I did seem off or anything, all it was me genuinely trying to help you clarify your positions based on my understanding of things as well. It's a mutual, what do you call it? Feedback loop, they call it, kind of thing. I feel there's a better word for it, but I'm also tired. So
Yeah, I just yeah. And we actually heard a little bit of that between Jungle Jargon and Iger, didn't we?
Mhm.
about flat Earth, about the equinox and the solstice.
about the position of the sun, depending where you are on Earth.
Ugh, don't get that started.
Iger likes his flat Earth. He really, really does. But all right,
Yeah, it's
nice talking to you guys. Again, apologies
Sure.
for getting cranky. Hope we can have a conversation again. Good
yeah,
night.
No
next
problem.
time I will do it. If you want, you can subscribe at my other channel, which is the God Talk. I did open it this morning at that channel of mine, but that was just a lapse, not by mistake. At the other channel, I am promoting this kind of conversations. So if you want to sign up there, and then when another stream comes up, you will be advised.
Yeah. Hey, there's a conversation. I should send the link. If I can, I'll find the link. There's a conversation between Red's Rhetoric and True Empiricism, and they talk about the very topic that you were bringing up, Antangelo, about ATP synthase. Have you ever heard of True Empiricism?
Yes, superficially, yes.
Yeah, he uses the same ATP synthase, the flagellum motors, and
Oh yes,
argument.
I've seen the guy debating. He has a very focus on that. I use many other different examples. That was
Yeah.
just one of those.
that's just one example. There's many others.
Yeah, I like to refer to the DNA information chain itself as a basic observation of what's called universal information sets.
And,
It makes
and
Yeah,
actually,
example.
I tried to clarify a framework, Jay, upon which to make investigations of origins. That is very important because many atheists, they have a very confused and non-elaborated epistemological framework. And many, they are empiricists. They want to prove God to them. And that's simply not possible. We cannot prove, neither disprove God's existence. So we need to use abductive reasoning and eliminative inductions in order to move forward and to make an informed to come to an informed conclusion in regards of what most likely is true. And We can go on next time, and I think it is important that we characterize what are the signs of intelligence, which things non-intelligent cannot do. That is very important in order for you to move forward and say the universe was most likely designed or not.
Yeah, obviously we can't say, come over here and we'll show you God and you can touch him.
Yeah.
Well-
that you can forget. If you're asking for empirical proofs,
Well,
and
according to
that
Joel, if I
is
touch a tree, I'm touching God, right?
if that is
No.
Touching something God made.
if that is your burden of proof, Jay, if you want that God shows up to you in some form, then the discussion ends right here, because we cannot provide that proof. And if we could, then the discussion would have ended right here, and we would have
Right.
proof, and that's it. And we don't have that. What we have is evidence in the natural world, and we can also make a rational exercises like the 5 ways of Aquina, which in my understanding lead to a necessary first cause as the origin of everything.
Yeah, we can show you the forces of God, which is the definition of gods, plural, and all gods get their power from God.
Yeah, I try not to presuppose gods as anything other than the concepts that they've been demonstrated as.
No, you're defining
Until
God.
somebody actually demonstrates
Because-
puts
because check
something
this
to
out.
con-
Throughout all of history, mankind has identified what they call as gods or powers, things in reality that affect their lives.
Yes, and normally when mankind was doing that historically, they attached those gods to certain objects.
No, they were describing actual forces and powers.
No,
Whether
when
kings
Egyptian gods
or
and Greek gods are attached to objects, those objects are humans.
or
They're men and women.
volcanoes,
Those are the
well,
objects that
there's false gods and there's true gods, actual
Well,
gods. There's
and even
false
the-
powers and true powers, real powers.
Even the Egyptian gods were never human necessarily, Jay. They were cats and all kinds of weird animals.
Yes, but those are that's exactly what I'm talking about. But the concept is still attached to some
they
kind
were
of
attached
object.
to immaterial, eternal things that have nothing to do with.
Yeah, even
If
if
a
it
person-
was a jaguar spirit or a pig spirit or whatever, there's still what they consider to be a force or a power.
It had nothing to do with the material realm. But you want? I don't want to help.
No, it's okay.
Because
Never mind.
it affects
I'll-
something
I'll
that affects their lives.
I'm
It
gonna go ahead
either
and-
influences them in
See you
some
guys.
way
Good night,
or
Jungle.
instructs them in some
Hold
way.
on a second. If you're still there, do you leave? He left.
I think he left.
He did.
Either it influences a person in some way or instructs them in some way, or they somehow benefit from this God of theirs.
I was wanting to try to quote Antangelo, the first part of what you were trying to do, I think, tonight from Mr. Lennox. He says, there are not many options, essentially just two. Either human intelligence ultimately owes its origins to mindless matter, or there is a creator. It is
That's a
strange that
wonderful-
some people claim that it is their intelligence that leads them to prefer the first to the second.
Yeah, that's a wonderful quote from John Lennox. Fantastic. He's a very bright mind, and that's really, it's important that we start putting frameworks. I mean, at the moment that he says, oh, there is another option, but we don't know what it is, then you need first to deal with that, because otherwise you cannot move forward. You need first to establish a sound epistemological framework, and then you have to establish what we are trying to investigate, what are the possibilities, and as long as this is not done, you cannot move forward to better topics,
Sure. As real quick as
Yeah.
Mitchell, I just wanted to kind of stress that as well in voice, man. It is so hard. I confessed, my voice gets stern when I'm trying to, control myself, not to, call people names like that. So we gotta avoid that.
Well, yeah, because people deceive themselves a lot of times when they talk about what they believe, and sometimes you just have to reorient them so that they can actually see what it is that they're talking about and trying to say.
Exactly.
Yeah,
And
I
that's
think
exactly
it is
what I'm
very
trying to do.
important. it is very important that we give some time and listen what these guys have to say. And if we don't do that, and when we start just to have constant over talking and interruptions, then the discussion becomes unpleasant and will not move anywhere. And we need also to remain focused on one topic and not change topics from one to the other. If we do that, then the conversation becomes unproductive.
Agreed.
Yeah,
I think
and it has
that's
to
the
be
reason
too.
why- sorry, that's why I even tried to interrupt him on rare on occasion, was to try to prevent that circular stuff, that topic jumping, and just keep to the topic. Just so I try to pause him and try to get him to realize what he's actually stating outside of his own whatever. And I was trying to fast forward the conversation, and as I was saying, and I apologize if I'd screwed it all up.
Well, it's no problem. I just think we are here to support each other and to learn. And I'm just made my comment in a constructive way that is directed to all of us. We all have to learn how to communicate, how to dialogue, how to have conversation. I mean, I am 54 and I'm making many mistakes yet, and I have to learn too. So it is to all of us. I mean, that format of having direct conversation on the internet is relatively new. I started it this year, and I give great value to let my opponent talk until he finishes his point, then try to analyze what he actually is saying, and then giving an informed response directed to what he is saying. And if he moves from one topic to another, then we have to redirect back to the actual topic and go back to that and deal with the first issue before we move to another one.
Yeah, you have a point, Otangelo, because that's the Bible actually says let the other person finish speaking before you start talking. But if you notice the dialogue in Job, each person makes this long diatribe, and then another person, responds or whatever, But
that is another problem when you have an interlocutor which thinks that he has to concentrate the whole dialogue, and it becomes a monologue. And if you check what happened at Smokey's channel, it was basically that. Joel was not patient as I was, and that became a total mess. And what I did was just shut my mouth and let the guy talk. And if you look in 1 hour stream, he talked maybe 50 minutes and I talked 10 minutes maximum. So this guy has absolutely no clue how to permit that the dialogue is balanced.
Yeah, well, we can't be afraid of what the other person has to say. And we have to be able to remember to respond.
It's not being about being afraid, but it's about the other part, of course, needs to have also good sense in the order to permit that the dialogue goes both ways. And many people, they are simply not patient, or they love so much to hear themselves to speak that it seems that they are engaging in a monologue where the other part is just the listener, and they talk all the way through by themselves and do not let the other part talk. And that, of course, is also not okay.
Yeah.
Slow to wrath, slow to speak, and quick to listen. That's how it goes.
Yeah, sure.
Well, there is, I admit, there is a verse in the Bible that says that let the other person finish speaking before you start talking. There's a verse that directly addresses that.
Proverbs has many wonderful advices of wisdom and philosophy. I love Proverbs of Solomon.
Sometimes the guy's going off on all kinds of wrong ideas, and you want to stop him before he goes too far.
That's why it's important that we make very precise questions and permit that the person responds to these questions. And really, many atheists, they're very confused. Why? Because they do not have a solid, sound framework upon which to investigate origins. And we are here really to correct that.
Yeah. And it's information. It's communication information.
Sorry, Jungle.
Yeah, it's communication information. We have to correct all their false ideas and all their misconceptions, and there's so many of them. That's the whole problem.
Well, before that, I can start to talk to Jay about molecular machines. I need to figure out and see if he agrees that we have a framework upon which we can investigate origins. And at the moment that he says there are more than two options, either there is a God or there is no God, then we have to deal first with that issue. You know, he said, oh, there can be other options. Why would he believe that a molecular machine is best explained by design if in his back mind he still believes, oh, there can be other options and it doesn't have to be God, it can be a force or it can be whatever. So you can bring the best explanation why a molecular machine points to design, but then he will sneak out at the end and say, oh, but it doesn't have to be intelligence. It can be something else which we have yet not figured out and sorted out, so we don't know. And then he will lead the conversation with that in mind. That's why I say we need first to deal with the framework and see if the counterpart is actually agreeing with the framework that we are proposing, which in my case, I propose, like John Lennox, either there is a God or there is no God. If we can start agreeing on that, then we can move forward.
Yeah.
Well, it reminded me of him as well. So he said something along the lines that if there is a God, or if there's not a God, nothing matters. If there is a God, nothing else matters.
Oh, yeah. That's a very nice quote, Joel. I agree fully.
And they try to say that we can't know, and then they try to turn around and say we can know that it wasn't
Oh,
God.
yeah. All the time. You see that with agnostic atheists. They say, we don't know, but when it comes to a deeper discussion, then they will defend evolution, then they will defend abiogenesis, they will defend everything which confirms what they want to be true, which is atheism. But coming back to what you said previously, Jungle Jargon, I think C.S. Lewis made a very nice quote in regards of that. He said that either Jesus was a lunatic or he was the one that he said to be. If he was a lunatic, then whatever he said is completely irrelevant. But if he was who he said to be, then he is of utmost importance.
Right. And
it's
very impressive. Nobody ever came up with some of the things that he said, you know.
I wanted to share my thought about how when Jay confessed, not only in his multi whatever belief system, when he said that he didn't want to me, that's what I was trying to clarify. He didn't want to know because he didn't know, and he was trying to base it all that, well, I was a Christian. That's their cop-out. That's what you described as well, Antonio. They create these multiple positions as a cop-out, and so they want to say that they had honestly tried to understand the rationale for Christianity or for theism, whatever, when they don't. They never did. And he confessed it. I was glad to get that out of him. He confessed he never actually believed it. He was just going off what he was told, what he was indoctrinated by. And so he didn't even understand the basic, the basic teachings of Christ whenever I challenged him. He said he did, but he proved he didn't. So that, to me, that's a good way, I think, of trying to kind of help not only remove their foundational arguments that they tried to believe God but couldn't, but that it'll cause them to kind of re-challenge their whole position that, hey, wait a minute, maybe Joel was right. Maybe I never did actually examine the evidence for Christ one way or the other. And so now they might begin to, since they claim to themselves now that they do base everything on their examination of evidence. That's my hope.
Well, many atheists, they want really, once they leave Christianity or any religion, they actually become, they claim to be agnostics, but they cannot leave, they are not in peace in mind by being agnostics. So they actually want atheism to be true. So what do? They put such a high standard that they require in regards of evidence to move to God, but they do it in order to keep atheism as their philosophical position. So you see that nicely with Matt Dillahunty. He has put the target so high that whatever you bring up, he will always deny it because he doesn't want that God is a reasonable option.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's why I say agnostics are atheists. They're just less intelligent, and they're less intelligently honest. I'm tired. Sorry.
And they claim to be honest in their search of truth.
Oh, yeah.
You know?
Oh yeah. When I said to Matt Dillahunty that he was biased, I said, "Oh, you are accusing me to be dishonest," and shut the phone down. You know. But
Well,
I mean, that's what we are seeing. They are biased and very strongly biased. They don't want God to be real. That's the truth.
Agreed.
Okay, guys. I think every one of us is a little bit tired already. It's almost 2 hours. It's 9 in the morning. I woke up 4:30 in the morning today, so I will close this stream.
So,
sounds good.
Yeah. So thank you, Joel. Thank you, Jungle Jargon, to be at my channel, and see you next time.
yes, sir.
Okay.
Have a good day.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.